What's happening, people? Back with another reaction, back with some more Duran Duran, and we're back to finish another Duran Duran album. That's right, we're up to the end of my version of All You Need Is Now, which is to say, a number of you commented that the version you have of the album ends with Before the Rain, and believe me, I really understand why that choice would have been made. Go back and check my reaction. Not only did I love that song, not only did it leave me with this sort of profound feeling, but the actual sonic end was like masterful. It really culminated and completed in such a good way that I absolutely understand why that would be a great track to end an album with. But at least on my version, there's one more tune, which is called Networker Nation. I believe it's one of the bonus tracks, though I think there are like other bonus tracks that are not on my version, so it's amazing to me how many different sort of editions and special deluxe or variations of their different albums that they've had, not just now, but even going back as early as Rio. Like I said, I have that deluxe edition of Rio, and there are all sorts of like other mixes, night mixes, and so on, and then like original demo versions of these different tracks. Incidentally, I am going to get back and do the blue silver version of The Chauffeur. It's been in my to-do list for a little while now, but I've been going through some of the other albums and I wanted to kind of complete them, so but yeah, that one is still on my radar and I will get to it soon. And I am going to get to the other version of Drug. It's Just the State of Mind. I know I ended up doing the track on the studio album, which I now understand to be a remix, and a number of you sort of talked about sort of John Taylor and the way he thought about that one, and that the way I guess Simon and even some of the people at the record company wanted to go the other way. So yeah, it's interesting to hear about the legacy of that song, but I am going to go back and do what is the original version. Even though the version on the album I have, it doesn't say remix, my understanding is that is the remix. I'm going to go back and do the original. But bottom line, before I go back and re-hit different versions of some of these tunes that I've already done, I want to finish off a couple of the albums that I've been going through. So that's what we're doing here. We're up to the tune Networker Nation. I'm interested by the title. Networker speaks to the modern digital age and networking, the syncing of different computers and digital devices, and thereby the transmission of information, of entertainment, of misinformation or disinformation, but the ability to communicate with other people in far-flung corners of the world. And then nation, in a political science respect, it relates to a group of people who share an ethno-linguistic and or historic connection, although what's the name of it? Imagine Communities? Is it by Kennedy? Maybe it's Benedict? I think it's Benedict. I'm trying to recall a lot of the like anthropological and historical reading I did in grad school. But there's a book about, it's a sort of famous text, and it talks about the way in which nations, they do share historical characteristics and, again, ethno-linguistic characteristics, but oftentimes nations, especially when they become like larger bodies of people over multiple generations, a sort of a mythology builds up around the nation, and so they'll make reference to history, but it'll be in, say, an oversimplified or romanticized or glorified idiom, and ultimately nations tend to see themselves as discrete homogeneous units when in fact there's often a lot of heterogeneity and sort of fuzzy borders and so on, as well as a lot of variation within the nation state even as it imagines itself to be. So yeah, I don't know if it'll be that concept of nation. It could actually refer to like a modern nation state, although again that plays off the political science terminology in the sense that nation states are ostensibly a nation of people who have their own state. Now, a lot of modern nation states, especially the United States, are multi-nation states, and very few, if any, nation states are like true, like singular nation states. Maybe somewhere like North Korea. But yeah, bottom line, I don't know if it'll be this sort of political science concept of nation state, or nation, sorry. So yeah, we'll have to see how that manifests, but it does make me think of the modern digital age and a group of people identifying themselves by this sort of mythology and the sort of infrastructural and cultural trappings that have become part of that mythological narrative. So yeah, we'll have to see exactly how it manifests, but let's get to it. The final tune on my version of All You Need Now, or All You Need Is Now, by Duran Duran. And let me just say, like, even before we listen to it, I have absolutely loved this album. I've loved pretty much every album I've been going through, and I keep mentioning some of them, like Medazzaland. I've been, like, really cherishing that experience. This is an absolutely brilliant album. My understanding is, in some ways, it's supposed to be a sort of revisiting of the themes and some of the sonics of Rio. I do hear that, but I feel like in its own right, even if there wasn't that connection, even if they weren't trying to kind of recapture some of that lightning in a bottle magic, I do feel like it could be a great standalone album without that heritage, which is interesting. Like Nation, right? Like I was just talking about, like, you know, there might be a thematic connection to something before, but you're still creating your nation in the present moment as well. So, yeah, that was an interesting little connection, but I'll stop talking now. Let's get to it. This is Networker Nation from All You Need Is Now, Duran Duran, 2010. We got our digital age theme already, but it's like ironic, right? Because it was like a 80s computer sort of voice. The beat. It's like a breakbeat, like, you know, like electronic breakbeat. Come on. The sound of this album. Sing it. And I'm feeling the, like, you know, the classic do. It's different, but God, this beat, it's hard, like heavy syncopation, and with the guitar, and Mr. Rhodes, there's some like lasery sort of touches. This is brilliant. I love those kind of high chimes, like organ kind of chimes. We're just talking about people living their lives like in this milieu. I love it. All sorts of interesting touches going on here. There's like an incoming fact sort of like series of beats, which digital information like compressed. Coming back in there. Ooh, come on. That was wicked right to the end. It felt like shorter than I expected. I thought we might go once more round, you know, maybe an interlude and then a chorus. So I almost feel like I'm left wanting more, which that's not a bad way to end an album, right? As I said, I think ending with Before the Rain, which is apparently how a number of other people's version of this album does end, that's brilliant, but I do get the idea of ending an album with a song that right up to the last note has you grooving along and like, oh man, that's it? Like, man. Well, I guess I'm going to have to wait a couple of years till they come out with another album. Someone mentioned that, like, for Duran Duran fans, that's known as Duran time, which is hilarious because you know I follow a lot of bands like you know listen to a lot of punk bands like Bad Religion's been around since 1980. I think they have something like 15 or something studio albums, and I've gone through that same thing where like you get an album, you cane the crap out of it for the first couple weeks, and then you know like it really like works its way into your larger playlist, and it's like, all right, I love this album, so let's wait a couple more years till they come out for another one. So yeah, it's interesting though. I do like a song that ends an album leaving you wanting more. So yeah, that was very cool. I do think I was maybe on to some of the themes, like in terms of my speculation. I do think there was a sense, you know, we're all online now, we're living our lives, and, you know, we're kind of getting used to this is just the way things are now. And, you know, in some ways, it seems like it was about sort of, you know, the transference of digital information to the point where it almost sounded like, you know, it was like a fax machine kind of like transmitting the data. Yeah, it was very cool. I do have to listen to it some more. There were some lines that I didn't pick up on, and perhaps, you know, some of the more subtle contours of what he was saying about this digital age and the way in which we're having to exist in it and, you know, come to terms with, you know, sort of our species is, you know, evolved in a very different idiom than we now find ourselves. So yeah, there might be some more touches that I'm not yet privy to, but listen to it some more. Again, I'm going to start to maybe do some videos where I talk about these albums as a whole, and now that I'm finishing a couple of them, you know, maybe I'll do like 2 or 3 in a row, because I did just finish Notorious as well. I'm getting close to the end of Arcana, so or so Read the Rose. But yeah, or Arcana? Arcadia. But yeah, ultimately I will do a video where I just talk about this album and how much I've enjoyed it, and, you know, which songs in particular really caught my ear. So yeah, let me know what you think, and let me know again if your version of this album actually has this track, or whether you're actually hearing this for the first time. I am curious. Other than that, thank you for listening and watching. I will see you next time.